Hello and welcome to Happy Handicrafts. My name is Joanna and today we're going to be making a Paper Sloyd extension envelope. Now this model is the 10th from the third year from the book Paper Sloyd for Primary Grades by Ednah Anne Rich. It's actually a beautiful little envelope that the book suggests you to use for clippings, or I imagine it could be used for coupons or anything else that you would want to stuff into an envelope. I thought we could stuff our tax forms in there and send that to the IRS to make sure, or maybe to make them a little bit happier, but apparently that's not a thing, and my husband said no. So, I hope you enjoy this project. It does have a few difficulties that we had to work through, but if you follow along with us, I think you're going to do just fine. So the materials you're going to need for this project are, of course, the book Paper Sloyd for Primary Grades. If you don't have this already, look below and I'll put a couple links there where you can either purchase it or download it online, okay? You're also going to need a cutting mat, an X-Acto knife, a pencil, a ruler, glue, and a piece of paper that is at least 9¼ inches by 11½ inches. The one you will see us using is 12 inches by 12 inches. We got that, it's scrapbook paper and it's really quite thick. So I would suggest using that. It's almost the right size. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do, like always, is we're going to cut out our rectangle. So we measure from the top on the left-hand side, and we're going to measure down to 9¼ inches. Then we're going to measure on the right-hand side down to 9¼ inches. We're going to place a dot at each spot. And then we're going to use our ruler to join those two dots. Next, along the top, we're going to measure from the left to 11½ inches. And we're going to draw a dot. Then we're going to measure again near the bottom to 11½ inches in from the left, and we're going to draw another dot. Now we'll use our ruler again to join those two dots. Now, once you've done that, you can use your X-Acto knife to cut out your rectangle. Since our paper is fairly large, it didn't fit on completely onto our cutting mat, so you might need to reposition like you see Lucy doing. Not a big deal. It's also a good idea to to move the paper around to rotate it until you find your most comfortable position when cutting. Now, since this paper is fairly thick, sometimes we've misjudged how hard to press our X-Acto knife, and occasionally you may need to go back and just reinforce those cuts. Again, not a big deal. And there's your rectangle. So the first thing we're going to do with our rectangle is we're going to measure along the top in from the left, and we're going to place a dot at 2 inches and at 9.5 inches. We're going to do the same to the bottom. We're going to measure in from the left, and we're going to place a dot at 2 inches and 9.5 inches. Once we're done those dots, we're going to join them with a line. So first we're going to join our 2-inch dots, and then we're going to join our 9.5-inch dots. The next part is a lot of measuring. So along the left-hand side, we're going to measure down from the top, and we're going to place dots at 3/4 of an inch, then at 2 inches, then at 2.5, then at 6 1/8, and then 6 1/4. Now we're going to do the same on the right hand side. We'll measure down from the top, and we'll place a dot at 3/4 of an inch, then 2 inches, then 2.5 inches, 6 1/8, 6 1/4. Okay, now let's join those dots, starting with the 2 3/4 inch dots. We want to be sure to hold that ruler carefully in the middle so that we can draw a straight line all the way across. Next, go down to the 2-inch dots, and you'll join those two. Oops. Next, the 2.5 inch dots. Now the 6 1/8 inch dots we'll join. And finally, the 6 1/4 inch dots. We'll join with a line. All right. Next, we're going to place dots. We're going to go to that last horizontal line that we just drew. We're going to measure in from the left, and we're going to put a dot at the 1/2 inch mark, 1 inch, and 1.5 inches. Now leave your ruler there, and we're going to go over to the right hand side and put a dot at the 10-inch mark, the 10.5 inch mark, and the 11-inch mark. Now we're going to do the same along the very bottom. So we'll measure in from the left, and we'll put a dot at the 1/2 inch mark. Then at 1 inch, 1.5 inches, leave your ruler there, go all the way to the right, put a dot at the 10-inch mark, 10.5 inches, and 11 inches. Now we're going to join our 1/2 inch dots. Lucy's going to do this with a dotted line because that is how the diagram in the book is. These are not going to be cut lines, they're going to be fold lines, so I think it's to differentiate that. Now join the 1 inch dots with a dotted line, and then the 1.5 inch dots with a dotted line. Now you can move your ruler over to the right, and we're going to join the 10-inch dots with a dotted line. Then the 10.5 inch dots. And finally, we'll join the 11-inch dots. Now, those lines that we just drew, we're going to place dots on the first, measuring down from that last horizontal line. We're going to measure down and put a dot at the 1/4 inch mark on the first line and the third line. Just put a dot at the 1/4 inch mark. Now you're going to draw lines to the dots, kind of in the shape of a W. Watch what Lucy's doing here and you'll see. From one corner to the dot, then from the dot to the top of the second line, from the top of the second line down to that second dot on the third line, and then up to the corner again. Now we're going to repeat that whole process on the right hand side. So again, start by measuring down from the last horizontal line on the first dotted line. You're going to put a dot at the 1/4 inch mark, and then put another dot on the third line at the 1/4 inch mark. Now you're going to draw your lines just like we did in the shape of a W. Okay, now we're going to go back to our vertical lines. We're going to measure down on each of them from the top, and we're going to put a dot at the 8.5 inch mark. So do it again on the other vertical line, just put a dot at the 8.5 inch mark. We're not going to draw a line this time, but you're going to hold your ruler with it starting at the first vertical line. And you're going to measure. So hold your ruler at the 8.5 inch marks, and you're going to draw a line from the 3-inch mark to the 4.5 inches. And now you're going to cut that line out with your X-Acto knife. Next, you're going to measure along the very top of your rectangle, and you're going to place dots at the 5-inch mark, 5 3/4 inches, and then 6.5. Then you're going to go down to the first horizontal line, and you're going to measure in from the left and place dots at 3 1/8 of an inch, 5 inches, 6.5 inches, and 8 3/8. Then on the vertical lines, you're going to put a dot at 1.5 inches on each of them. So we do it on the left one, and now we'll do it on the right one. Measure down from the top to 1.5 inches and put a dot. Now use your ruler to draw a line from that dot across the corners. That one's going to join with the 8 3/8, 8 3/8, and then on the left hand side, that's going to join with the 3 1/8 of an inch dot. Now you're going to join those 5-inch dots and the 6.5 inches. You're going to draw a line from the first horizontal line right to the top. Next, you're going to use your ruler on those lines you just drew. Measure down from the top and place a dot at the 1/2 inch mark on both of those lines. And then you're going to measure, or you're going to draw a line from those 1/2 inch marks to that peak, that middle dot, just like we see Lucy doing. It looks like a little house. And she's putting on the roof. And that is all of our measuring. So now we are going to cut it out. So Lucy's going to use the X-Acto knife to cut it out. I would definitely refer to the diagram to make sure that you're getting all the lines correct. So the diagram has darkened lines, so it makes it a little bit easier to see. Because of all our lines, it can get confusing. Next, we're going to go through all of our lines and we're going to do those initial folds with our ruler. We use the ruler simply to make sure our lines are nice and straight. Using the ruler was especially handy when folding these longer but really close lines. Now when you're folding in the sides, please note what Lucy's doing. The first fold goes in. It's going to be like an accordion, okay? The first fold goes in, the next fold folds out. Then it's going to fold in again, and the last one is going to fold out. So again with the other side, just make it folds in first, then out. Then in, and the last one, make sure it folds out. Now once all the folds are made, we just use the back of our ruler, or the front of our ruler actually, to press down and reinforce those folds to make sure that they're really nice and crisp. This makes a big difference to the final piece. Make sure you get all those little folds. Now we're going to use glue on our accordion sides. You just fold them in, put a strip of glue there, and then you're going to fold that whole piece over. Just like that, yes, whoop. Fold it over and hold those pieces in place until they're nice and glued. And that is our final envelope, extension envelope for clippings or whatever else you may use it for. I hope you enjoyed this. Isn't it pretty? We'll see if we're going to send our tax forms to the IRS in this. And as usual, thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this, leave us a comment below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we do this every week and we like to let you know when we do it, when we put out our next video. So we'll see you next time.